Module 4 is just in the middle. And so you learn how to produce value with the consumer, you learn how to distribute this value to the consumer, you learn how to price this value to the consumer. Now it's time to communicate the value to the customer. So that's what we will do in this module of 4-day. And yeah, what's the purpose of it? It's quite easy. How to combine all the digital and non-digital channel in an aligned ecosystem. You know that the brands are now living in a quite complex ecosystem with the appropriate content. And the idea is to construct a meaningful consumer connection, making sense with the consumer. The idea also is to learn how to maximize the communication effects. So it's quite theoretical. So let's jump in a few examples and the way we'll conduct it. But first, remember one thing. Brands are doing a lot of efforts, putting a lot of money on the table, communicating a lot. And at the end of the day, on 58% of what is offered by the brand to the consumer is not working. They don't say, it's not for me. So there is something to be done. There is something to be done in terms of channel shows. There is something to be done in terms of content we will produce. If you're able to do that, and if you're able to construct those meaningful brands will make sense to the consumer, you will have the opportunity to have better KPIs for your brands, more familiarity, more overall impression, certainly more purchase and repurchase. And at the end of the day, they will pay more for that. So that's the idea of what we will learn during those 4 days. The issue is we suffer. We are we have too much communication, of course. You have 6,000 marketing message a day, moreover. We are not sure of the figure. It's between 5,000 and 10,000, but let's say 6,000. You remember only 18 message. When I say 6,000, it starts with the brand of your coffee machine at 6 o'clock in the morning because you get up early and all the things you will use. Only 18 message you will keep. We have 78% of subscription of audiovisual media, making a big difference in the media usage. And at the end, and I'm sure some of you are using that, 30%, 33% of the Belgians, and that's more or less the same figure for Europe, are using ad blockers. I don't know if some of you are using ad blockers. By the way, I work in advertising for 33 years, and I use an ad blocker. So it's a nonsense. It proves that we have to do something. We have to communicate better. We have to find the right solution to communicate better the value. The idea also, communication management, is to be a nutritionist for the brands. I'm totally convinced, and we will learn that more is not the answer. Better is the answer. And sometimes you need to push harder. Sometimes you have to push smarter. And that's exactly what we will learn in this model. Thing is, and thing are is, and I've learned that also practically in the 33 last year, is communication is quite easy. Let's start the conversation during your Sunday brunch. Everybody knows something about advertising. But at the end, it's quite complex to put everything together. And the first thing starts with a briefing. Ask the marketeer if they brief well their agencies, they will say, I brief perfectly. Ask the agency if they are well briefed by the marketeer. Well, the answer is quite different, isn't it? 78% of the marketer says, I brief perfectly. 6% of the agency says, I'm well briefed. It will start with that. And this session will start with, what do I have to say to my agency? And by the way, if you work in an agency, it works also. What do I have to ask to my client? So it starts with this thing. And it starts with this idea. I say that everybody knows something about advertising. We all know something about advertising and communication, but it's quite complex to connect everything. That's the idea of the model. So we will follow this model called Bastard. So you will never forget it. Thank you. And that's precisely the idea. Briefing, analysis, strategy, targeting, touch points, advertising content, return on investment, and debriefing. That's what we will follow during the 4 days, okay? With several people, we will help you to understand, making exercise and working on it. For instance, we will work a lot on analysis, not just to do analysis, but to understand what's the need to have some insights, understanding when I've done my analysis, how it will be useful to construct better campaign, to understand better my consumer, to choose better channels, and to develop better content. And of course, we have a long session about constructing a communication strategy, starting from the challenges of the brand, the insights, and an idea will really make the difference. Finally, we will also work a lot on transforming company objectives, marketing objectives, communication objectives into KPIs, and be able to follow them. A lot of questions are coming when you start to communicate. Do I have to do some promo? Do I have to construct a brand? What will be the difference? Guess what? We will cover that also. Brand building and sales activation. That will be a part of what we will cover. It will be also about the content and about the targeting. 71% of the market is said. It's difficult to achieve a correct reach, delivering the correct content on my target. So that's one of the key also, working on how to target better. And it's infused by AI. In a lot of the session you will have, we will do exercise using AI. I don't know how many of you has already developed a persona. I'm sure some of you has already developed a persona. What we will do, for instance, in one of the sessions is develop a few personas based on AI. It's just amazing developing a persona with AI. You can start a dialogue with the persona and it will give you a lot of answers. It will open your mind. That's the idea of it. It's also the idea to give you a max of tools, matrix, other tools to help you the day you will have to develop your own communication plan, your own communication strategy. That's one of the examples here. It's a communication channel planning matrix. Nothing ultra complex, but the idea is to be able to connect all the tools to follow the process and be able at the end to produce the communication approach. And of course, we'll talk about context, content, and connection, which is the magic formula. The right context to the right people in the right sorry, I will do it again. The right content to the right people, the right connection in the right context, of course. That's important because you will talk also a lot about media. Media is one of the key ingredients of a strategy. We'll talk about local media. What's the difference of local media and social media? When do I have to use it? That's definitively the question we will answer. Do I already mention Bastard? Thank you. That's all the topics you will have access, and I will not read the long list, but that's the kind of theory you will cover. A lot of examples. And because I love to be in an energetic mode, but 4 days, it's long. I will be a lot of people helping me to doing that. You've got here a few examples of the people. They were quite smiling, isn't it? And that's a good idea. I will be helped by more or less 8 people during those 4 days. So I can't wait to meet you.